Good morning. Happy New Year. It is January the 3rd. Is it 3rd? January 3rd, 2019. And this is the Board of County Commissioner agenda setting work session.
Commissioners check-in, yes.
Commissioners check-in. And since it's brand new year, we'll go around the room, do introductions. I'm John Hutchings.
Ty Menser.
Gary Edwards.
Robin Campbell.
Ramiro Chavez.
La Bonita Bomar.
And back behind me,
Robin Hortz.
Brian Dominique, Public Information Officer.
thank you. So again, Happy New Year to everybody. We're working off of the agenda, and the first thing we're going to do is review the BOCC draft agenda for the January 8th, 2019, next Tuesday's meeting. So now we'll work from the agenda. And we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. And are there any presentations that we're aware of that day?
Yes, Commissioner. The first item on the agenda is just the business confirming the nomination of the chair, vice chair of the different boards and commissions. As we have it in here, Commissioner Hutchins will be the chair of the Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Edwards will be the vice chair for 2019.
What? Say that again.
For the Board of County Commissioners,
Uh-huh.
Commissioner Hutchins will be the chair. Commissioner Edwards will be the vice chair for 2019. Commissioner Hutchins will be the chair, and Commissioner Menser will be the vice chair for the Board of Health in 2019. And Commissioner Menser will be the president, Commissioner Edwards the vice president of the Transportation Benefit District.
Okay.
And this is a motion for you to take a formal action. And on the Board of Health, you will have to take another formal action establishing the nominations just for the Board of Health. And with the Transportation Benefit District meeting comes in the next 2 weeks, you will do the same for that district. And that's what is and here's the first item on the agenda. And I will introduce the item, and then I may ask Commissioner Edwards to read the motion for you to consider that and go through the approval process.
Okay. My eye skipped a sentence, that's why I wanted to, but you were correct. I was incorrect. And the Board of Health is that same day in the afternoon?
Yes, in the afternoon. You will review the agenda after this one.
Okay. We will approve the agenda and the board meeting minutes as well. And what I don't see on here is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I have to, I was waiting for some information to populate the rest of the agenda as you've seen it in the past.
Okay. So I imagine we'll start with Commissioner Edwards leading the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that okay?
Whatever you say, boss.
Thank you. Presentation of the Board of Commission, County Commissioners. Okay, then we're going to do the next presentation, or that's the approval of all the assignments.
Yeah, and that will be a confirmation of the decisions you made yesterday and all the different assignments to the boards, commissions, councils, and committees outside of the county. And that's just an affirmation for the 2019 assignments.
Logistically, do we go through each one?
No, which is items of attachment. No, that will be a 2-hour effort.
Yeah, that was a pain. Got it. Okay. And then prosecuting attorney?
Yeah, John Thunheim will come in and introduce the deputy prosecuting attorney, Grace O'Connor. I believe the board has already met him. I believe you, Commissioner Menser, knows her as well. It's just a matter of disclosure. She is the wife of Patrick O'Connor, who is the Director of Public Defense. Their duties are totally separate from, so their activities do not cross in any way, shape, or matter, because she provides civil services. And Patrick O'Connor's business is related to defending indigent defense when the prosecutors press charges. So different.
Right, okay. That'll be interesting.
And I'm stating this just for the public's benefit. I know you know this, but just to make sure.
Right, and I also have a tremendous amount of confidence that they'll maintain that firewall between the two professionals. Any questions or comments? Nope. Then we have an opportunity for the public to address the board. Anything that you're aware of, any issues that might be pressing?
It will be some members of the public, they may want to come and just meet the new board, particularly Commissioner Menzer. So we may have some testimony on those terms, but nothing in particular that I'm aware of.
Okay. You gonna be here?
Every day.
Rockstar, okay. County manager's update.
I will not have any manager's update, and for the purpose of this, what I do usually in the county manager's update, I follow up to any public testimony that you have received. If there's any follow-up that needs to be made, I will follow up in the upcoming week. Since I don't have any pending items, I will not highlight anything for you. So, but moving into 2019, what I will try to do is just give a brief report of some of the highlights of the commissioner actions in the past week, just for the public to understand. As you go through the business, there is a lot of briefings, a lot of decisions that you make, and I think the public can benefit for me to provide that such a report.
Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 3 on the agenda, the consent items A through J. And the first one, 3A, is Public Works, increase existing change fund by $350.
Yeah, this item 3A, Public Works is requesting the board to increase what we call the cash fund. And as you may know, we have 3 locations where we receive solid waste refuse. One is the Waste and Recovery Center, Hacks Prairie. The other one is right near Dropbox and Rochester Dropbox. In each of those, we need to have a cash available to meet the demands of the cash transactions when customers come in. Obviously, the influx of refuse has come in and increased that, which requires to have a larger cash account. Right now, that account is $750, and the department is asking to increase by $350 for a total of $1,100 cash.
So this seems to be a very small item, and why would county commissioners need to take an action on something so small? It's because state law requires that the legislative authority take action on petty cash accounts. That's why you're seeing these items here on your agenda. We also have a legal opinion that the board may not delegate authority regarding petty cash. So these have to come to you.
Hey, Gary?
And is there a reason that we're not going to put the total amount? Is that like a crime prevention measure so they don't get stuck up, or what?
No,
That was the first thought I had.
we can add that. The total amount is in the description on the
I
supporting
just think if
documentation.
the public might be interested as well.
Yeah, we'll
Questions
add
or
it.
comments?
My comment is my pen just died.
Uh-oh.
Is that what the buzzing was?
No. Thank you. All right.
I learned that on also, always have a
We'll
throw
add the
down pen.
total. We'll add the total.
And A is for Rainier, B is for Rochester.
Yes, it's the same for
Same
items
thing.
3A and 3B. Yeah.
Okay. 3C, the Emergency Services Revised Ambulance Ordinance.
Yeah, this item is not ready for your consideration, so we'll be removing this item for the agenda. The ordinance attached to this particular item is not ready. It has now gone through legal review. So you will not see this on the January 8th agenda. Most likely you will see it on January 15th after
Okay.
we have that legal review.
It needs legal review, you said?
Yes.
Thank you. So 3C is scratched, but I'm going to continue on with the same lettering that we have. So 3D, Delta, is Human Resources.
Yeah,
Appointment to Thurston County.
this is an appointment to the Citizens Commission on Salaries for Elected Officials. And this is for District 2, the appointment of Rachel Morris. And also related to that is also item 3E. And let me give you just a perspective as to why this is just an affirmation of this by the board of this selection. Because the Salary Commission provides their opinion as to how the salaries for all elected officials, including county commissioners, can be adjusted on a yearly basis. As you went back in 2018, the salary adjustment in 2018 included a 3.5% increase on the county commission salaries. There is a little bit of nuance between as to how the process goes. The Board of County Commissioners can approve or not the salary recommendations from the Salary Commission to other elected officials. But you do not have the ability to say A or nay or change it, the recommendations for your salaries. That's how the law requires. So when an appointment to the Salary Commission comes along, you as a Board of County Commissioners do not review those applications. It is done by a different process. And the process is by district, is somewhat of a lottery process, similar when you have a jury duty and you have individuals who votes, they select individuals to the surface. They go through similar process, the auditor's office, to determine several names, and they actually contact those individuals whether they like to serve or not. And that's how the selection for the individuals to serve in the Salary Commission comes about. And so in this case, you have not received an application, nor do you in the position to review an application, because you need to maintain yourself in a very clear division as to not come across that perhaps you're influencing the appointment of an individual. They may have an opinion on your salary in the future.
Go ahead, Gary.
Is that done, is that process put in place by state law, county ordinance? What mandates that we don't have any involvement in that?
I think that's because the Salary Commission is established by county ordinance.
So can we change that ordinance?
You could change the ordinance, but I would recommend against it.
Well, I guess for point of discussion, I have always felt, in fact, I have testified in front of the Salary Commission, that any elected official should never receive a raise while they are an incumbent for that period of time in which they were elected. So how am I able to affect that position if I can't have something to do with selecting Salary Commission representatives that might share my point of view that we shouldn't be getting a raise while we are in office? And that applies to all elected officials, not just the county commissioners.
No, I understand what you're saying, Commissioner, but still, the perception of an influence may be in front of the public, because you're trying to influence the outcome by having a specific appointment that may be aligned to your perspective.
Yes.
Specifically deals with changes in your salary, changes or not.
Mm-hmm.
So from my point of view, I think what some of the options that perhaps the commissioner may consider is dissolving the Salary Commission. And then we need to give you another tools as to how the salary adjustment should be done. And there are other ways, because they can be tied to the state Salary Commission, to the judges is a different process that you can explore. But from my point of view, I strongly recommend not to get into the point of changing the dynamics as to how you could select an individual, because you are in the position to affect the outcome of their decision.
Are we,
Go ahead.
are we affected by a timeline in which we have to take this action?
Which
What
action?
I'm wondering.
Appointing?
Yeah, nominating these individuals and appointing them. What I'm wondering about, are we going to have some time to discuss this so that maybe we can make a determination if we want to dissolve it, go a different direction? I feel pretty adamant that the public does not appreciate us giving ourselves a raise. And in fact, we've ran into problems, especially in times of, in tight times, when here we are getting a raise and we're telling our folks that are working for us that, well, you don't get a raise, but we're going to get a raise. And I just think it's a backwards process, so.
I don't disagree with that perspective, Commissioner. I'm just putting the perspective in terms of how the system is put in place.
Right,
to,
but what I'm wondering about the
to
timeline.
address the check and balances.
The timeline, I need to know, do we have to do this or not?
For the first one, the current member, who is Ms. Kelly Tracy, has been disqualified because she moved out of the district. So by default, she no longer lives in the district, and so the appointment needs to be put in place. And this is a vacant position that will be ending in March 31st, 2019. The second one, item 3E, the appointment of Ms. Megan Walsh, that is related to the current representative for District 1, Ms. Gail Yu, has resigned the commission, so the vacancy is available. And her tenure goes through March 31st, 2021. Certainly, there is not a deadline that you can take this action, but if you are if the board is considering dissolving the salary commission in the future, this year, the appointments really wouldn't make any difference.
How many are there in the commission?
I think we have, we went through this, we have a total of 10 in the salary commission, and we went through, it was 3 vacancies, 7 voted for it, and at some point last year we discussed whether that was the adequate quorum or not, and our attorney determined that it was a quorum, so their recommendation was valid in suggesting the changes on the salaries for the elected officials.
But what I understand you to be explaining is that based on our current scheme, we don't really evaluate these appointments. We simply just
Affirm.
We're just affirming that they were selected by the process that the ordinance has in place, and that's really all there is to it. Is there business in front of, I don't know what the timelines are for the commission to make recommendations or evaluations. Do they have business in front of them in the next 3 months?
I don't believe so. I think they're probably going to start meeting in the next late spring. Start looking at what would be the next change, if any, for 2020.
Or later.
Or later, yeah.
Gary?
I would just ask that we postpone making a decision on this at this point in time till we can at least talk to council, maybe get this on one of our work sessions or something so we can take a look at it, because I believe it's the public is interested in this particular issue, and it's worth looking into.
Any more time?
I would just point out that from what I'm understanding, we could affirm these, and it wouldn't in any way stop our ability to discuss dissolving the commission, or.
That is correct.
So.
Okay, well then, I mean, I'm okay with it as long as, but I want to get something going.
No, and
Because it seems like government always seems to lag behind what the public would like.
And what I'm making a note is that you would like to have a work session in exploring the possibilities, whether you like to continue with the salary commission or what other options you may have.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So where I might agree or disagree with what your premise of the whole topic, one thing I disagree is the statement you made, Gary, and that was give ourselves a raise. It looks that way, but we're not giving ourselves a raise. We're put in the position of having to accept it, rather than, hey, I'm giving myself a raise.
That is true,
So-
but it's the perception, I think.
And I'm glad you clarified that. I had written down also, we're appointing, we're not vetting these folks, we're not interviewing them, we're not skewing anything, we're just, that process is done absent us, we just
You just
appoint.
affirming that.
Got
the
it.
appointment.
And then we will have a work session to discuss this, because, and I fully agree that we should appoint these 2 vacancies, not to forestall any delays in their getting onboarded. If we need to dissolve, if we choose to dissolve it, we can, but if not, they're already in place moving
Okay.
along with the process.
So
So
what
we'll
I'm
keep these
hearing
on-
is-
we'll keep these on the
What I'm
agenda.
hearing is to keep those items on the agenda.
Makes sense.
Okay.
That's D and E. Now going to 3F, Lacey Veterans Hub, MOU.
As a matter of history, Lacey has been working on having the Veterans Hub, which provide assistance to veterans, not just in the city of Lacey, but also in the Thurston County region and perhaps beyond. And those services has been proven to be extremely effective to provide services to veterans in terms of mental health, job placement, and housing, and any type of services and assistance they need as they move along. So back in 2017, the board approved to contribute $30,000 a year, and $30,000 in 2017, and $30,000 in 2018, for a total of $60,000 to participate on the Veterans Hub. And the $60,000 was specifically to pay the lease of the existing building, which is located just behind the South Puget Sound Community College on the Lacey campus. So also as part of the budget in 2019-2020, the biennial budget, the board also approved to continue the support on the same amount, $30,000 in 2019 and $30,000 in 2020, with the same objective. They can pay for the lease of the building they're currently utilizing. So this particular MOU before you, it does that. It just reaffirms the commitment, and also creates what I call is the instrument in which the city of Lacey can send us the bill for us to pay $30,000 in 2019 and $30,000 in 2020.
Questions or comments?
No.
My only comments, I had a chance during the campaign to visit the Veterans Hub, and it was impressive what they do, so I'm glad to see this on that.
It is a good service.
I'm glad to see that the next budget continue that.
Do the other cities, Lacey, Tumwater, and Olympia, do they contribute to the Veterans
No,
Hub?
at this point, it's a partnership with the city of Lacey and in Thurston County.
Okay. All right. 3G, the sheriff funding request for 13 SWAT protective vests, armor plates.
Yeah,
that have
this is
expired.
this is a little bit out of place.
So I'm going to jump in. I have to ask, and I do apologize, but I have to ask you to remove this item.
Yeah.
Because for you to pass it would be a violation of state laws regarding how budgets are adopted and amended.
I
good,
already talked to the undersheriff this morning that I was going to remove this item, because this is not a venue in which you may consider a budget amendment.
That surprised me to see,
we
to
have
see
a-
Surprised
this.
me too.
We have a process, and I suggested to the sheriff's office this morning, they need to formally submit a budget amendment that you may consider in the first quarter of 2019 as the regular budget amendment, among many other requests that you may consider. So, and he understood, the undersheriff, but I just want to make sure that that you saw this item, and it will not be on your agenda on January 8th.
Good. I'm not going to go to jail for the sheriff. You said this is unlawful to do it this way?
It would be,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And kind of well, I'll discuss that when it becomes an issue again. And let me see, well, maybe,
But this is related to expiration of equipment. And
They would have known that in the
so
time when
the
they
timing
submitted the budget.
is interesting, but we'll work with the sheriff's office.
yeah, but it's almost like an expiration date on every kind of food. Only from the standpoint where food will spoil, the vests don't spoil. The manufacturers actually have to they're mandated to put an expiration date on vests where their liability stops. It doesn't mean the vest stops working. So it's a very expensive piece of equipment, so it needs to be evaluated. How expired are they?
It's a marketing ploy.
And
Thank you.
the undersheriff did mention that his duty was to make sure that you understand, the commission, understand the liability related to the expired equipment. So I'm delivering that message to you as well.
All right, thank you. He knows it's being removed then as well? Or he will be told it's being removed?
I already told them
You
this
did tell
morning.
him.
I called them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I called the undersheriff, told me it will be removed.
All right, 3H, Superior Court, approval and execution of the City of Olympia interlocal agreement for provision of jury resource list.
Yeah, this is a coordination with the City of Olympia. As you know, the Superior Court goes through, a jury selection process, which they produce a very extensive list. And this particular MOU is to allow the City of Olympia Municipal Court to access the jury list when they need a jury box on their municipal cases. And again, this it has been in place for many years, and this is just a continuation of those services. It's a very modest impact, which the City of Olympia pays $100 a year and $50 every quarter to update the list. So this really is not a financial aspect, but certainly is a good coordination among the courts.
Questions?
No.
Nope, okay. 3I, Human Resources, MOU between Thurston County and Local 618, and 3 different 618s.
Yeah, this MOU is ratifying the cost of living increase for 2019, which all the local unions stated in here have agreed to the 3% cost of living increase in 2019, and that has already been included on the approved 2019-2020 biennial budget.
Okay. Questions? Comments? 3J, Auditor, approval of the voucher list.
This is your regular voucher list for the benefit of Commissioner Menser every week, and you will get in your signature block a very thick report where you will have the opportunity to see all the different transaction payments that we do on a weekly basis.
What kind of payments?
Any payments.
Oh.
Any expenditure transaction payments that we do as part of the overall county business, you will see a very line item description as to what those are. And before it gets to you, the financial services go through the process of checking all those. I take a look at it to see if any glaring issues. And again, U.S. legislative authority authorizes the issuance of those payments.
So we go through these multiple pages of the vouchers. If you have any questions, just get a hold of either Budget or Robin or Romero, because I've always gone in, just emailed, what's this mean? Because a lot of them are abbreviations, and I don't understand what it is. They give it to you.
Okay.
So you will see that report, yeah.
All right.
So.
Department items now, number 4 on the agenda. Public Health and Social Services, the Criminal Justice Treatment Account Plan and Interdepartmental Agreements.
Yeah, this is the Department of Public Health and Social Services receives a total of $239,327 in Criminal Justice Treatment Account, also known as the CJTA. And this is funding that comes from the state of Washington, the Health Care Authority. This funding must be spent on substance use disorder treatment and recovery support services for individuals involved in the criminal justice system. But also state law outlines the local criminal justice treatment account panel must agree on how that money should be distributed. The Thurston County panel met and agreed in October 2018. This dollar amount should be distributed, $192,000 for Superior Court, and $23,394 for the Office of Public Defense. And that will be for a period of July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2019.
So if you have any questions, we have Carrie Hennon here.
Yeah, Carrie Hennon is here. If you have any questions?
Thank you. You may get a few questions here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gary.
I think Romero did a great introduction. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Go ahead.
What's the reason for the 25%? What's that all about?
The 25% change?
That is,
Yeah.
actually, I'll
Oh, so
Fine.
that's standard language,
Yeah.
authorizing the Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the agreement and any amendments that do not change the amount or duration by more than 25%. That's standard language that Public Health puts in agenda items.
Well, I
every
guess what I'm
contract.
asking about, we're given a dollar amount that we're expected to approve, and 25% of that total is a substantial amount of money. And what would change that would
Not like a possible
allow
overrun.
that expenditure to take place?
In the event the state gives more grant money, because the state comes from the Washington Healthcare
Okay.
Authority, the
This
state,
money coming in.
the
Okay.
state
No,
could
I
give
mean,
additional.
I'm good with it, I just didn't know
Yeah.
that.
The state could give additional grant money to the department, and as opposed to come back to the board
Okay.
and yet another action, so it gives the parameters of the 25% maximum.
Thank
You
you.
would also, so suppose you saw, this is divided between an office and a department, suppose you saw underspending somewhere and overspending somewhere else, you could shift that if it's just $10,000 or something without.
Okay, I'm good with that. Thank you very much.
So if I understood, Ramiro said there was a panel in October that worked through where this money go. Is there a summary sheet that I can look at?
So one of the many attachments includes the actual plan, which is not terribly long, but to summarize, basically the decision was divided between Superior Court, DUI, Drug Court, which provides, so this fund source is one of many fund sources that DUI Drug Court uses to operate and can provide treatment. It covers a lot of the urinalysis, so that we don't have to bill that to other fund sources that may or may not allow it. And then for public defense, the agreement was to use that for basically for substance use disorder assessments.
But we'll get you a copy of the report. I believe that's what you're looking for. The
DUI and
report-
drug court, though, is a big chunk of the Superior Court piece of this.
It's all of the Superior Court pieces.
And I know drug court very well, but DUI court was fairly new at some point in my last decade, and I sent a client or two through there, but it's been a long time. Has that program grown? Or I only knew it right at its inception.
It continues to be fairly small, so drug court has 80 to 100 participants, DUI court has maybe, don't quote me on this, say 8 to 12 participants at any given time. There's a lot of kind of eligibility factors with getting into DUI court that make it a great solution for a fairly small universe of people who have already used their deferred prosecution, et cetera. The vast majority of this funding will end up being spent on people involved on the drug court side because they operate as integrated programs. The interdepartmental agreement is really with DUI drug court. But it's really drug court participants who will benefit from this because the stipulations of the fund source are that it's to be spent on substance use disorder treatment and recovery support services for individuals who have a substance use issue and charges filed by the prosecutor. Does that make sense?
Does this money get reevaluated every year? Is that the kind of the timing of?
Yeah, so there's been quite a few changes recently in this fund source, and that's part of the reason for the tardiness of these agreements coming before you. If you looked at the dates, this is agreements that go back to July 1st, 2018 and go through the middle of 2019. At the state level, the fund source moved from DSHS, DDHR over to the Healthcare Authority. So due to kind of big changes at the state level, there were also statutory changes last year regarding how this fund source could be spent that broadened the definitions a little bit to allow spending on not just on treatment, but also on recovery supports. And then at the local level, this funding in the past was managed by the Behavioral Health Organization, and in the spring, the state approached all counties saying, do you want this fund source to continue to be managed by your BHO, or would you like to bring it in-house to the county? The commission at the time decided they may do 2-year agreements last time. My understanding is it's been 2-year agreements in the past. For some reason, our agreement with HCA this year was a 1-year agreement. Hearing it might be 2-year agreements in the future, but stay tuned.
Okay. Well, since I'm new, that works well for me, so
And I'm printing
thanks for
the
the
report
explanation.
for you.
And I don't know if if you're intent on looking at the work summary sheet I'm not sure what your intent is. I'm going to guess. I'm not going to guess. I'll tell you what my issue is, or my question, and that is the work summary sheet, whatever you're talking about, the worksheet that you went by, to determine the disbursement amounts of funds, might explain how it was, but I don't know what the philosophical belief was and why the court is getting almost $200,000 and public defense is only getting just barely over $23,000. How that split came.
So
Is that explained in that worksheet or no?
On their report.
in the local plan, I wouldn't say the philosophy is really explained. So the panel by statute is required to have representatives from the prosecutor, the sheriff's office, Superior Court, DUI drug court, public defense, a substance use treatment provider, and there's sort of antiquated language in the RCW, but the EHO.
Go through that list again for me slower, would you, Carrie, please?
Prosecutor, sheriff, Superior Court, and DUI, and your drug court. So the statute actually names both a representative of Superior Court and a representative of your drug court. Public defense, a substance use disorder treatment provider, and the statute says the county drug and alcohol coordinator. That language hasn't really kept up with the times given the transition to EHOs, so we had a representative from our Thurston and EHO. So that group sat down to discuss how this should be spent. In terms of the underlying philosophy, this is a terrible answer. It's kind of always been this way, that most of the money has gone to drug court.
Yeah.
In the past, they've had trouble spending that money. In the future, we don't think they will have trouble spending that money because as the state has clarified and broadened definitions, they can use that on urinalysis. So, as you know, in my other hat, I manage the treatment sales tax. TST used to pay quite a bit of drug court's urinalysis. Now that CJTA can pay for that, CJTA is paying for that, which means TST, which can do a broader set of things, can pay for other things. So it kind of frees up TST and will allow Superior Court to hopefully spend this full allocation, which they weren't able to do in the past. Does that make sense?
It does, but what I'm seeing though is the mandatory representation of that group is heavily weighted on the courts and criminal justice, and not the legal, the sheriff, and not so much on public defense. So I mean, he or she, but that entity is vastly outnumbered.
That's the intent of the state of Washington, where the money
Well,
comes
that's silly.
from. They get to tell us how to use the money they send.
Because dadgummit, you could say the court has difficulty spending all the money, but I know public defense can use every penny and more.
Yes and no, and I mean, this is a broader conversation. They can't just spend it on anything.
Right, I got it.
There's a list of eligible expenses.
Right.
And if, first of all, there's a universe of people, which is pretty broad, people with a substance use disorder with charges filed by the prosecuting attorney. But then there's a list of eligible expenses. They couldn't spend it on attorney time. So what they are using this for is substance use disorder assessments at $100 a piece. So this is actually a whole lot of substance use disorder assessments. So in the past, they've really spent quite a bit less than that. This is actually a big increase in CJTA to them. And I will say we are in a learning phase with this, given changes in the law, changes in administration. So I look forward to reassessing this in next
Yeah, and
spring and
as
summer when we get a new contract, a new allocation, when we see what actual spending has been, is brand new to me as well. So
because as Kerry stated, it used to be managed by the BHO. Even back then, when the BHO was part of the Public Health and Social Services, that was part of that purview. So when the BHO moved out, the BHO will start managing that. So when this grant became available, it didn't make sense to the BHO, somewhat of an outside organization, to determine how the money should be distributed for county functions. that's how we came to the board last year, and the decision was to bring that back into the Public Health and Social Services Department, which makes sense. As Kerry stated, this is the first time, so we're learning. So that's how it has been done in the past, and the allocation that you see, the split, has been done in the past as well. Not in the dollar amounts, but perhaps in the split.
Right, no, hang on. And the BHO is part of the representation as well, you said?
No.
Yes.
They do,
On the
panel.
panel,
On
the
the
panel,
panel
okay.
that developed.
but they don't get any money.
No.
They do not get
No.
it.
Just want to make sure.
Okay. Commissioner Mensah.
So just my intent in asking about it is there's a complex matrix of funding sources for this area. I feel responsible to be managing criminal justice dollars in the way that is going to create the best, but without understanding this complex matrix, because I've seen the spreadsheet on TST dollars, and it's a long, detailed spreadsheet, and so I can't even really evaluate this particular bundle basket of funding without understanding how it fits into the larger matrix of all the dollars. So maybe at some point, maybe it would be useful to me to have a briefing on sort of an overview of every source of dollars that come into the criminal justice system. That because, like I say, Commissioner Hutchings, if this were the only source, then you'd be concerned about, a mismatch. But maybe this just fits neatly and totally rationally, logically into a larger matrix of funding sources. And I just need to get a handle on that as soon as possible. So thank you for answering questions, and I'll bug Ramiro for more information
well-
on the other pieces of the puzzle.
So in pending the briefing, you like to hold this item?
Think about that, because it's a timing issue.
Yeah, so that's what I want to make
Dates
sure.
attached
if,
to
What makes me somewhat confident is, A, you're saying this isn't a major change from the past. B, it's because of these latenesses that we're only really getting this into July, and we'll be looking. So if my colleagues feel that this is appropriate to move forward, I can understand that, and I will not oppose it. If my colleagues have similar questions and want to delay, I'm not opposed to that either. This is obviously, like say, a piece of a puzzle, and I'm going to have to just get on top of it quickly. But it sounds like I have time to do that before next
I
year.
would recommend that the board move forward with this because
really
it is a
behind it.
revenue source
Yeah.
into our general fund
So that's important.
pays for this important service.
And we're already
So
behind
we
since.
incur the costs regardless of whether or not you accept the money.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Nothing? No. Then we'll keep it on the agenda then? Is that all right with you guys? Thumbs
Yeah.
up?
Yep.
But I
Okay.
think a work session on criminal justice funding is a great idea.
Yeah. 4B, bravo.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Gary.
Orcora Foundation Grant Agreement.
Yeah, this is part of a statewide effort to address the shared goal of improving health in our region with a focus on oral health. So the Aurora Foundation, the Choice Regional Health Network, launches the Thurston County Impact Network, also known as LIN, L-I-N. And the Thurston LIN includes 7 anchor strategies, 2 of which Thurston County Public Health Social Services has been selected as the lead. One is the school-based dental sealants, and 2 is the community education. The LEAN aims to reduce the oral health disparities in Thurston County. So this is a grant coming into the county for $71,145, and the department is asking you to approve receiving the grant to achieve those 2 objectives that I just listed, with 25%. And that gears to just in case we get additional grant funded money.
Questions, comments?
No.
Nope.
Good.
Okay, we're good with it. Thank you. Department items, number 5, Public Works set a public hearing to consider modifying boat restrictions on Lake St. Clair.
Yeah, this proposal is for you to consider setting a public hearing for February 5th, 2019. And this will be for 5 in the afternoon, La Bonita. No 3:30.
5?
And this particular public hearing is for you to hear public testimony on the proposal to change the restrictions that we currently have on the water levels. Right now, we have a restriction of a 69.5 feet water level As soon as that drops below that level, then the 5 mile an hour restriction outside a 200-foot buffer from shore drops. And that has been in place due to the fluctuation of the water levels in Lake St. Clair. This proposal is to elevate that restriction to 69.99. It's just about 4 inches. Where I believe there is some residents that would like to see that restriction. What it does is, they will open up for boating activities early in the year, as opposed to wait until the water levels drop to that 69.5. They can start utilizing the boats when the water level drops below 69.99. And that is really the gist of this.
So, not to forestall any questions you might have, before the February 5th public hearing, will we have another briefing to help Ty get up to speed on this thing? No pun intended.
We could. What would we like to see on the briefing?
And then subsequent to the public hearing, we'll have another discussion about this before we decided the issue?
Absolutely. As any proposal that comes before you, because you hold a public hearing, you're not obligated to take an action. You always have the opportunity to think about this and change it and modify it based on the public testimony. And that is the purpose of the public testimony, to give you the citizen perspective as to any particular item that you're considering.
Right.
So when you said you would like to have a briefing on this prior to the public hearing, what would you like to see in that briefing?
I'll turn to my seatmates, because we've had several briefings on this issue over the last year or so. But I don't know if you're up to par on the topic of the water level versus the speed boats and all that type of stuff, and boating, recreational boating. So I just thought you might benefit from a briefing.
I would, but if you guys are up to speed, I can educate myself. I did hear about this from citizens during the campaign. What I haven't looked at is the specific proposed. When you're talking about very specific increases in water level, I haven't looked at that or had a chance, but I can probably do that on my own time.
And the reason, I don't want to be dismissive, the reason that I like to see, I asked the question, what is it that you'd like to see in the briefing? Because Lake St. Clair by itself has a lot of issues. As you may recall, through the years, they have, not necessarily on the water levels, but the water levels have over time increased during the winter times. And it just happens, this lake is a tub. The inflow contribution is underwater, and there is not an outlet of the lake. And so there has been a lot of citizens or residents of the lake that have come to the board and trying to find a holistic solution to avoid the water levels going to a certain, beyond the 69.99. So it's a very complex issue, because really resolving, the county really doesn't have any authority to resolve this issue for Lake St. Clair in a way. And I think we have provided some avenues to the Lake St. Clair residents that perhaps they may consider to form a special use district, and how they can probably tax themselves to start looking at a holistic solution as to how the water levels is affecting. Because the argument is, and we, as the winter moves in and the rains are coming in, the lake is going to raise the water level. And you will start hearing some feedback, because over time, yes, have increased. And it's affecting some of the docks and some of the amenities some of the home residents have near the lake. But solving that is difficult. And there is a lot of history on that over the years. And that is what I'm asking. If there is a briefing, they would like to have a briefing on the entire issue of Lake St. Clair, or just a briefing on changing the water level restrictions that is related to the speed limit of the boats.
This proposal that the public hearing would be about came from who drafted it?
It was a request from other citizens, and we staff, as a request of a commissioner, we bring this proposal for you.
Our staff our staff basically just putting an ordinance or a proposal in place based on the citizen request, or based on some additional analysis that they did of what would be the best solution?
So the 69.9 water level has been in as part of the history, and there's a lot of history as to how this came to be, and it was many emergency resolutions because some of the citizens came to the board at that time back in, I believe, 2000, 2003. I can give you probably a little more history on that as to how they perceive the water levels having an impact on the shoreline. And staff went through the process and said, the 69.99% was adequate at some point. And through the emergency resolutions, then the board dropped that to the 69.54 inches. And that, since 2013, that has been in place. So fast forward to today, some residents who have boats and they enjoy the lake, as they should, have come to see if as a result of raising that to 69.5, obviously the boating season will expand. So there is really, that's what is the proposed resolution is before you, is whether you're considering expanding the boating season in that lake by raising the water level. Because other than that, it really is not doing much related to the fluctuation of the lake. That make sense? Or?
Just to finish my thought is just that if there's some aspect of this issue that my colleagues would benefit from, I'd appreciate if they feel like they're up to speed, they've heard what they need, I can educate myself because this is giving me time. We're not deciding on this immediately, so I don't want to waste their time.
If the board decides to set the public hearing, you will hear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll get a lot of information there. Yeah.
Well, between Romero and Tim Wilson, he'd be glad to sit down with you, I know, and just go over this stuff. He's brilliant when it comes to this stuff. Gary, you had your hand up.
I guess I'd like to just follow up a little more with what the county manager said. Was this has come about?
5 o'clock.
The lake residents would like us to work with Mother Nature and solve this problem, but that does not seem feasible. And this is a stopgap to allow them to do some recreation, probably a month earlier, recognizing that we do not have the resources to pump that lake or dig, tunnels or ditches or whatever it might take. Mother Nature is in charge, but we want to allow them. This was a solution they came up with is, okay, we realize you can't change Mother Nature, but could you change it back to where it was? It didn't seem to be a problem then. So it's just a single issue at this point, and we'll hear from both sides.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll just set the public hearing.
Yep.
And we will hear from folks.
Certainly.
Sounds good.
Okay, now we're getting towards the end. Agenda item number 6, Commissioner and County Managers items.
Yeah, this is a request. As you may know, we have received the services from Jennifer Ziegler to provide the legislative lobbying help for the county's legislative items. Late in December, Jennifer Ziegler called me, and she stated she can no longer provide services to the county. She's overloaded. So as a result, Deborah Manguia, who actually she is the one who has been helping us anyways over the last year, so she has her own consulting firm, and so this proposal is to go ahead and first is waive the bidding competitive requirements because it's a brand new contract, and authorize me to sign and execute the contract similar to what we have with Jennifer Ziegler, in this case with Capital Consulting, which is just with Deborah Manguia, for the period of January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020. And the dollar amount is $36,000 a year, which is part of the budget.
Questions?
Consulting for what?
Legislative liaison with the legislature.
Go ahead, Gary.
Well, maybe I'd just mention.
And I think you met the.
I have met them.
Deborah Manguia.
Yeah.
when we got into this, she was very, this agreement was very instrumental in expanding the ability to fund for a courthouse by, you know, so if we did one thing, we've done many things that we've accomplished through this contract, but that was probably the major one as we potentially in the future move forward on a courthouse.
And
Getting that done in 1 year was a major accomplishment.
an incredible accomplishment, and we have to give credit to Deborah Manguia at that time, and also Deborah Manguia, in partnership with Jennifer Ziegler, in 2019 she was proactive and continues to be proactive in working with the item of the court impact fees. And as you know, that is the centerpiece of the Thurston County's legislative
request,
priority. To the extent the preliminary budget for the governors includes
Included that.
restoration
I
of the
saw that.
court impact fees. And I believe that's the result of the great work Deborah Manguia has done over the last few months. So, and this is again, I believe, a reaffirmation of the good work that she has provided. In this case, it will be just dealing with Deborah as opposed to Jennifer.
You think you're good with that? Okay, that's good. That's a go. Commissioners report, item description, that pretty much wraps it up, okay, for that piece. We'll move on and get through, we'll bang up the board.
It's just for Commissioner Menser, in the last part of on the Tuesday's agenda, item 6B, it will allow for you to give a short report to the citizens in some of the many meetings, many committees, and any other activities you would like to highlight that you're involved. So this is your opportunity to express to the public some of the activities you have done in the previous week.
It's your open mic session.
And in item 6C, the county managers will review the upcoming calendar, and this is more for the public to understand what all the different appointments may be coming up to you as part of the normal business of the county.
All right, we'll jump through the Board of Health. That won't take long, and then we'll take a break. So after that meeting, the BOCC meeting at about 15:30 or 3:30 in the afternoon, we'll call the Board of Health to order. Again, that same date, January the 8th, and we'll approve the agenda. And there's a proclamation, it seems. Welcome. Hey, before you begin, will Tom and Keely be coming back?
Not today.
Dag, nabbit.
They'll be here on Tuesday.
Okay, they will be. Okay. I'm sorry they had to leave. Okay. Go ahead, Shelley.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shelley Fletcher, Administrator of the Board of Health and Director of the County Public Health and Social Services, and I'll just walk you through the Board of Health agenda. So one additional item that we will need to add is approval of the December minutes, and so we'd like to add that under item 1 right after approval of the agenda. Next, we'll have
Let's make sure Robin knows that. Did she do that, or you check? You add this to this? Okay. Thank you, Lydia.
Then we will have a proclamation for National Blood Donor Month. January is typically the lowest time of the year where blood supplies drop down and they need more people to donate. So we'd like to raise awareness so that people will donate blood. We will have a representative from Northwest Blood Works here to accept that proclamation.
All right. Any questions on that proclamation?
Will we have some type of a proclamation to give to some group that's coming in?
Yes, Northwest Blood Works, which is our local organization that accepts blood donations.
Will they be doing a blood drive on campus during that day?
We don't know yet. We hope that they will. They did last year. So, did you come in contact with them? I emailed Mr. Moore. Yeah, I got it back. Okay. So we're still waiting to confirm that. We hope to be able to offer that.
Anything else?
Shelley, before you go any further, can I be introduced to your colleague?
Oh, man.
My apologies, Commissioner. Yes, this.
I'm Lydia Hodgkinson. I'm the clerk of the Board of Health.
Clerk of Board.
As normally as commissioners, I'm from the Board of Health.
Awesome.
So you see me a couple times a month
Great, thank you.
Lydia. Item number 3 is opportunity for the...
I just have a suggestion in terms of the format, maybe moving item 4 on the first of the agenda. So that way, the appointments of the chair and everything, then the
Oh,
chair
yeah.
will just conduct the meeting as
Would that be number 2?
that will be right after the call meeting to order.
Yes. Are you aware of any issues that the public are going to come in and talk about?
We're not aware of anything at this time.
Okay. So do you want to describe the item number 2 under this auspices of the Board of Health, that we're just going to go through the election of the chair?
Yeah, that would be probably the right step to take in terms of actually making a formal action on selecting the chair and vice chair of the Board of
Okay.
Health. And then you can continue on with the normal business of the meeting.
Okay. And under the Board of Health agenda on number 5, department items, there's a draft Board of Health regular meeting schedule and locations.
Yes, and I'm gonna ask Lydia, clerk of the board, to talk about that item.
All right, in 2015, you guys adopted, the Board of Health adopted an ordinance that set the meeting times, which is the second Tuesday of each month. And since then, I think when Shelley came on board, it was determined that it actually, when you guys meet and review Board of Health agendas each month, the previous Tuesday and then the morning of the
Special
actual
meeting.
They're special meetings. So what, we've been doing that now for just about almost, well over a year. So each time that happens, I need to send notification to the newspapers and the public to let them know that we're holding a special meeting and that what we're doing, what the agenda is, which is basically just reviewing the upcoming agenda. Since we've been doing that routinely, that has been meant that each month there's 2 notices to the newspaper every time.
Are these microphones on? I just want to be sure to,
It
I don't
is.
hear you echoing. Can you? Okay,
So
thank you.
what we're proposing is to revise, or I don't know if it's revising or create a new agenda or a new ordinance to include those meetings, not as special meetings, to be as routine. So we're hoping to be able to draft the ordinance and have it placed on this agenda. We're getting pretty tight in time. I'm not sure if we're able to get, in fairness to the prosecuting attorney's office, to be able to work with them to get that ordinance drafted. But that is the intention of that, so I'm not sure if we'll actually be able to have that on this agenda or not.
So the only question that I have is since we are going through actually, it makes sense to me actually, because for today's meeting, for instance, it has to be a special meeting notice. There is a cost associated with that. By changing the Thurston County Code to give a little more latitude, we can save some money and eliminate some of the steps that we need to take. So what it gives you is open up the window of the business hours as to when the Board of Health can meet. So, and that really is something that we need to explore. The only question that I have is, I believe since it's a proposed change to the Thurston County Code, we may need to set a public hearing for the commissioners to hear that. Every time that we change the county code, we need to set a public hearing. So that perhaps may be the first step that we may consider on this item.
And any questions or comments on that?
So
Okay.
it just sounds like we'll save dollars and become more efficient.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to back up to the blood work proclamation for blood drive. I just received an email that blood works, we're having a drive tomorrow. Blood works will be here tomorrow at the county courthouse from 9 to 3
Oh, excellent.
on the 4th, tomorrow. So I don't know if we're going to come on Tuesday or not.
That's great.
But I want the public to hear and everybody else that's listening. Okay, item number 6, 2019 Public Health and Social Services Legislative Priorities.
So our sorry,
Now it's working.
now it's working well. Art Starry is our legislative representative on WSALPO, which is the Washington State Association of Local Public Health Officials. And Art will be going over the priorities for WSALPO as well as the Association of County Human Services.
and the Housing Alliance, which is our organization for housing. So he'll be covering all of those priorities. And you have the WISOLFO priorities attached in your agenda. We'll be adding the others. We're still waiting for the ACHS and the housing priorities to be added.
Okay. Questions? Nope. Okay. Item number 7, Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention presentation.
So this will be a presentation from our Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention, also known as OHHP. It will be introducing to you our new Homeless and Affordable Housing Coordinator, Katie Marino, as well as discussing upcoming activities such as the annual point in time count, which takes place in January, as well as hazardous weather task force update and an update on our on the Board of Health's June declaration of a homeless crisis and how we have been making progress on addressing those issues.
Okay. Questions? Nope. Okay. Agenda item number 8, Thurston Thrives updates, social determinants of health presentation.
So Liz Davis is our Division Director for Child, Family, and Community Wellness, and she will be providing a brief presentation on the social determinants of health and how that aligns with Thurston Thrives.
Okay. And going back to all the presentations, we're not going to be read to, are we? Where someone stands and reads the PowerPoint?
No, sir.
Oh, good, good, okay. Because I can read.
We always try to make Board of Health very entertaining and engaging.
Thank you. Anything on Thurston Thrives presentation? All right. Item number 9. That's where we get to chime in on any Board of Health issues or involvement since the last meeting that we've done. Hey, I donated blood, that kind of stuff. Okay, and that's item number 9. Number 10, Dr. Wood will be here for to give her report.
Yes, she will.
Okay, and then your director's report.
Yes.
Item number 11, and then we adjourn. Questions on adjourning? Nope. Okay.
On that turn.
All right. It's 10:38. I'm going to round up to 10:40. Let's take a 10-minute break and be back at 10:45. You do the math. It kind of works out. No, 10:50.
Thank you.
10:50, 10:50. right, ready? Okay. Welcome back. Excuse me. And on the agenda now, number 3 is the City of Lacey proposed annexation options.
Allow me to frame it, Commissioners. Maybe 3-4 weeks ago, we received a proposal from the City of Lacey. They're planning to annex portions of the intersection of Marvin Road and Steilacoom Road. That includes the mushroom farm, Ostrom's as we know it, and some other corners. And you briefly heard that, I believe, in December. And so staff has gone back and will be presented to you a couple of options as to how the comments related to this proposed annexation should be coming from the county. As a matter of background, the proposals that you're going to be hearing today are not to oppose the annexation, but it's really to maintain or continue to have the same objective that we have been consistent in past annexations that the county would like to prevent by those annexations being formed islands. Islands, they perhaps will never be annexed if they're not annexed at a certain point. And then as you will hear in this particular annexation, the proposed annexation in a way by default creates an island of already established neighborhoods. And in some of the proposals you're going to be hearing, and again, it's not to oppose the annexation, that perhaps they need to revise the boundaries of the annexation to start having a more logical approach as to how the annexation should be. And I think all of us can agree the intent of the urban growth area for the City of Lacey is to eventually those become part of the City of Lacey. And that includes also the already established neighborhoods. And this has been, I believe, the consistent approach and the consistent message that we have delivered to the City of Lacey is the county is not opposing any annexation. The county is really concerned about the annexation process that creates those islands. In creating those islands, you know, it really is not a benefit to anybody, not to the citizens involved in that, because creating an island is how we're going to be providing services, response services, emergency services, that we have to travel city boundaries to get to those islands that will be unincorporated. And also you have seen some of the steps the City of Tumwater has taken, and they have been extremely proactive, and you have supported those annexations. They are dealing with those islands. And they are constantly working and addressing those islands because, and again, the creation of islands, as we call it, you know, in the urban growth area, doesn't bring any value to anybody involved within the process. So this is the premise and the framework of what you're going to be hearing from staff. And again, staff is going to walk you through what is the proposed annexation boundaries and some of the options that we're proposing to you, as well as what they proposed, the recommendation from the staff as to what option you could consider moving forward.
Are we doing this now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. That was my first question. When?
Today.
All right, got it.
And you should have a revised document like this. They has
Map on the back.
maps
Oh, you got it right there,
and
yeah.
everything. So you tell me. That one, right?
So just for a point of
Hang on
clarification.
just a second. Robin?
I'm just going to ask right up front if there's a deadline for a decision.
For January 14th.
January 14th, we have something to the boundary review board if the board should wish to act.
We'll go through that time.
All right.
So you will hear the proposals today, and I will bring this matter again on Tuesday, January 8th, for you to make a final determination. And we're still meeting with timeline of providing comments before the boundary review board. That is the strategy.
Is there a difference in I have 2 copies of this packet.
So what you need is they have the brownish tone. That's the updated one.
Got it.
And then also, yeah, just for point of clarification, this is happening pretty quickly, and staff has done a great job of putting the information together quickly. But we will formally update the briefing date and time and resubmit this briefing so that the record shows that this briefing occurred today.
Let's start with introductions.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm Joshua Cummings. I am the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, also known as CPED.
I'm Jeremy Davis. I'm a senior planner in community planning, long-range planning area, and CPED.
I'm Tony Cantus, senior planner, current planning of CPED, and I primarily review projects within the Lacey River Growth area and the Elm area.
Thank you.
And just so the commissioners are aware, also in the audience is our brand new fiscal manager, Linda O'Neill. So there you go. So she's getting kind of an introduction to how we operate and do business and how direction set for the citizens of the county. So this annexation is very specific in front of you. We've got a lot of other topics in terms of annexation that are kind of moving down the path at the same time. There's conversations on different legislation pieces and what we do in general with annexations. But the board has previously provided directions that we work to eliminate or to increase logically the boundaries of islands and peninsulas to avoid those service gaps that the county manager is just referring to. And so our staff received direction at the end of 2018 to look at this specific annexation that was proposed by the city of Lacey and to look at the boundaries that were provided and provide options that either so the three options that you'll see in front of you are three different paths forward. The first one is for us to do nothing unopposed and accept Lacey's annexation as they provided it. The second option is a middle path that we have worked with the city of Lacey, Rick Walk.
What you refer to the maps. Yeah.
So yeah, and I'll have staff take into the details. I'm just going to give you the up front. The second path is a middle path, and the third path is per statute. We, the county, can take what the city has proposed and do 100% more. So the third option is as much as we could possibly do to the furthest extent of the rules allowed. The staff will recommend option 2, and then I'll have Jeremy walk through each one of those options and the details within it.
I thought you started to say, and then you were interrupted, that option 2, you said you had worked with Rick Walk, or...
So in these conversations...
That thought?
Yep, totally. So let me go back a little bit more even. So the goal of CPED is to work as collaboratively as possible with the other jurisdictions within the region. And we have developed a good relationship with annexations and the department that is our corollary in the city of Lacey with Rick Walk as my peer, and then his staff, Ryan Andrews. And we have had conversations with them on this specific annexation in terms of the service that they've got in terms of calls from emergency services and what other boundaries might look, appropriate. They haven't seen these specific options. I wanted to have the board see these first, but we have been having collaborative conversations on these different options, and we believe that option 2 is that middle path forward that we can present to the city of Lacey. Excuse me, to the BRB, the Boundary Review Board. Okay, so that's the high level stuff. I'm gonna let Jeremy kick it off. So just for kind of perception, Jeremy is in our community planning, which looks to the future and does kind of the big codes and ordinances. And previously, Jeremy was the Boundary Review Board clerk. We have moved that BRB conversation clerk duties over to TRPC, the Thurston Regional Planning Council, and that has allowed us to utilize Jeremy in the conversations with annexation. So this is a big thing that occurred last year, and now we're seeing the fruits of it this year. To his left, Tony Cantus is part of the current planning group. So how does it impact immediately in terms of the zoning and the permits that come in? So that's this kind of two group, into the future and right now. But Jeremy is our lead on this conversation for this annexation. So
and again, we're working from this one that has the blue or the brown rather on it. The
and
brownish.
it should have the page numbers too in the bottom right.
Yep. So we're at page 2. Here we go.
All right, so first off, I just want to go over the basics of the Boundary Review Board process for future members' benefits. I don't see them do this before, and I don't know if you've had any pre-briefing on annexations at all.
multiple times, but I could use to hear it again.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's pretty complex.
All right, so first off, with the Boundary Review Board, it is a nonpartisan review board for annexations. Approximately 12 to 16 counties in Washington State still have boundary review boards. It's made up of 5 representatives. One's a county appointee, one's appointed by the mayors of the cities. There's 2 governor's office appointees and 1 special purpose district. Right now, the vacancies on that are the county appointee, that term just ended, and then also the one of the special purpose district appointee. So with the boundary review board process, cities go through and they do their initial public hearing on an annexation after they gather the petitions. Before that annexation becomes final, they have to submit it to the boundary review board for Thurston County for a 45-day review period. If no one requests review by the boundary review board in that 45-day period, it's automatically deemed approved by the boundary review board. In other words, if they don't review, they don't hold a public hearing or anything. Should an affected taxing district or the citizens in the annexation area request review, and there are particulars about each one of those, the boundary review board then schedules a public hearing and holds a public hearing on the annexation, and then makes a decision to affirm, modify, or deny the annexation following the public hearing.
45 days.
Yeah, and that's after the 45 days is up. When review is requested, the boundary board has 120 additional days to hold that hearing and make that decision. And I can get more particulars to your assistant on that timeline. And that's just a real nutshell description. And so the January 14th date that we referred to earlier is the end of the 45-day review period for the county or another affected jurisdiction or citizens to request that review.
And after that, if we were to file a challenge or whatever you call it, and within the window, can there still be negotiation and settlement?
Absolutely.
Before there's a decision?
Right, there can be negotiation, settlement, and then withdrawal of their request up to a certain time period, usually prior to the hearing being notified.
So one thing I heard about only recently was different kinds of annexations trigger, the residents have a power to there has to be a referendum in certain situations.
Right. So with Thurston County, we have 6 code cities in 1 town, so all of our cities fall under the code city annexation laws. And so depending on the type of annexation, it may be subject to referendum or it may require a vote prior to annexation. Typically in Thurston County, the cities will utilize a type of petition form of annexation where they take the petitions in for a certain percentage of property owners or value. They accept that and then they go to annex that territory. This one is not that, from what I understand. So
It's like 60% of the value if you have.
60% of the valuation. Yeah.
But this is not.
It's not exactly that.
Okay.
So another form of annexation which does have a referendum is the island form of annexation. With that one, you have to have 80% of the boundaries surrounded by the city, and then it's just a different form.
So focus on what this annexation is that Lacey is using in the process.
Yeah. So with this one, Lacey took the petitions in. They actually did get agreement from all the property owners. They went ahead and passed our ordinance, I think, at the end of November, to annex the territory and initiated the boundary review board process, the 45-day review process. If the county does not request review or another jurisdiction doesn't request review, then that annexation will be deemed final after the boundary review board review period after January 14th. In the present case, typically you see a fire district might request review or the county. In the present case, Fire District 3 actually serves Lacey and all of its urban growth area, or most all of its urban growth areas, so it's not likely the fire district would ever request review, since no matter what, they're going to be serving both before and after the annexation. So really you have the county as the jurisdiction of record, or the most affected jurisdiction after that. So, and that's a real nutshell.
Okay.
If there's not any more questions, we'll move right to the maps.
Yeah.
Nope, another question? Gary?
Well, I do have one other question. You made some comment about the county.
Do you have your
Is your
microphone,
microphone on?
Commissioner?
Oh, it's not even on.
You made some comment about the county vacant position on the boundary review board. Something was said about
Are you
that.
unmuted?
Yeah, sure. So the county has an
so, yeah.
appointee on the boundary review board. That term is for 4 years. That person's term is up right now. And they sent in an email, and I sent this on to Labadee already, that they haven't requested to continue. So there's a vacancy for the county appointee right now.
But does that position, if that person wanted to stay until we got it appointed, or they're completely off? That's what I'm wondering.
They submitted an email resigning.
They did resign. So,
That was the other day.
so it's incumbent on us to find somebody to replace that position pretty quick, it sounds like.
Yes.
That is correct.
And today's the first day we've heard about this, right?
This is the first week.
First you've heard about it too, sure. Okay. So,
And you will review this as part of your boards and commissions review next Tuesday morning.
okay. That's it. Thank you.
Here we go.
All right, so the current annexation, which you see as option 1, is on page 7 of the briefing we handed out this morning. The proposed annexation by the city of Lacey is surrounded by the red boundary there. It's approximately 259 acres. The majority of the annexation area is city and or government-owned property. And so let's just split it up in kind of sort of quadrants around the intersection there of Steilacoom and Marvin. And Marvin is the north-south street, and Steilacoom is kind of the diagonal east-west street there. So on the northwest corner of that, you have Nisqually Middle School, which is all North Thurston School District property. On the southwest corner, you have property owned by the city of Lacey, which they have a planned park there. And then on the southeast corner, you have the city of Lacey Regional Athletic Complex, or the RAC as we commonly call it, as well as a Fire District 3 fire station and a proposed fire station site. So where you see the private property in this annexation is on the northeast corner, which is where Ostron's Mushroom Farm is currently located. Further east along Steilacoom Road, to the right of that, so to speak, on the map, is the manufactured home park, and to the north of that is a 23-acre vacant property. So, yeah, it's about 259 acres total.
So everything in that red.
Within the red that's colored yellow on the map, essentially. That's the annexation area. Okay. So, with the proposed annexation,
Do you have a question? Yeah.
And the red lines, that's the city limits of Lacey, is that right?
no, actually, the city limits of Lacey is the kind of purple hash
Hatch
to the north.
to the north.
At the top.
Yeah, the hash.
So yeah,
Yeah, right up there, yes.
this
Yeah.
is the current city limits. Yeah.
Okay, those aren't red lines there, okay. They're-
Oh,
what-
there's a lot of red lines. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
The red line.
The hash.
The north-
Hashes, yeah, okay, that's Lacey.
Yes.
Good enough, just, I mean, I know your legend says that, I'm just trying to correlate that. Good.
Okay.
So that's option 1 is to do nothing. That's the city of Lacey proposal.
Right, and so option 2, if you flip to the next page, we went through and looked at the neighborhoods around the city of Lacey and their connectivity to the annexation area, and added a few different neighborhoods that we thought created a much more logical outer boundary for the proposed annexation. So on the east side of the annexation area, you have Hawks Glen neighborhood, and Hawks Glen is approximately 50 acres. And what we did is we took the current city Lacey boundary on the east side there and just dropped it straight down to Steilacoom Road. And then we went back along Steilacoom Road and then dropped it down the edge of Steilacoom Heights, the neighborhood right there. And that's the orange area. On the east side, it's kind of like a little notch that they left out of residential. Both those two little neighborhoods, the Steilacoom Heights area, access off Steilacoom Road, and Lacey's going to be annexing all of Steilacoom Road right there. So we thought it was logical to include both of those in the new revised boundary. Then we followed the current annexation boundary down to the bottom of it, and then to the west from the southeast corner of the annexation, which was printed out a big map, sorry. And we went along and went to approximately the western edge of the city of Lacey boundary. We basically dropped another line straight down there, and that's where you see the kind of reddish purple hash marks end on the west side. And that's on the edge of Hawks Ridge, which is the green neighborhood on the map. Okay?
So you see the logic there?
Mhm.
You got the city.
We
Yeah.
squared it off.
Yep.
So, okay, and so That proposal would add approximately 150 acres proposed annexation, bringing it to approximately 401 acres with option 2.
From how much
From
they're
250 acres.
to 401.
Yes. Yep. Approximately. I mean, these are GIS acres, so there's a few differences when you add in the description and such. So. All right, and so then option 3, that would take us to the maximum extent allowed in the boundary review board law. So in 3693, which is the law governing boundary review board, it talks about the types of decisions boundary review boards can make, and they can approve, modify, or deny. And modification denial, of course, is based on the review factors that they have, which we'll go into now. But for modification, the boundary review board has an option after a public hearing of adding additional acreage to the annexation area. The public hearing, of course, they have to notify all the affected property owners that they might be adding to the annexation, where everyone gets notified. So option 3 goes out to that 100% amount allowed under the boundary review board law. So we added about 250 acres to their proposed annexation with option 3. And that would take in a portion of the Tanglewild neighborhood, known as Tanglewild East on this map in the purple, as well as Sherwood Firs and Royal Oaks. So we kind of bumped it out a little bit into the west, and that kind of closes the loop a little bit more on Lacey's current boundary.
And how many total acres is that then?
That was
So 259 plus about 250.
Yeah, it's about 498. And that's all in a table on page 6 of that briefing.
Okay.
And so just so we kind of have a clear vision of staff's intent, the goal of our group is to provide the board, county commissioners, as much information as possible so you've got the full field of view. That's what this third option is demonstrating, is that this is as far as the law will allow the Board of County Commissioners to amend the City of Lacey's proposal. Staff's recommendation to create the logical boundaries as requested by the board is option 2, not option.
So just going back to the procedural issue, Lacey's proposing stuff that doesn't involve a lot of residences. We add residences, or we try to add residences through the boundary review challenge. Mm-hmm. Then obviously those, you said notice goes to those people, and then does that trigger more stuff that they get to chime in? The residents?
Yes, sir.
Because they weren't going to chime in before because they didn't know they were even part of the proposal.
Yes, sir.
They're only part of the proposal when we say, well, we think this is what it should be. Then what do they get to do?
So when we file our request for review with the boundary review board, the county would then include that geographic area we're requesting the boundary review board to hold a hearing on to include in the annexation. Once the boundary review board receives that request, they'll then schedule a public hearing. State law requires the boundary review board to provide a minimum of 10 days written notice to each affected property owner in the additional annexation area. So they'll all receive a written notice in the mailbox. And that's what the chief clerk of the boundary review board would do.
But it's just for them to pipe up. There's no it doesn't trigger some kind of, because prior to, it doesn't trigger a referendum or anything. It just says you can individually go up and give your 2 cents to the boundary review board.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Gary?
Why would we not want to have more acreage annexed than less? And isn't that in meeting with the intent of the Growth Management Act in the state of Washington to eventually have these neighborhoods be within the urban growth area assigned to that particular municipality? So why wouldn't we want to move ahead with that? I mean, that's my understanding of growth management.
So staff has provided options that go, option 2 is the logical boundary, option 3 is as much as the board could do. And that's up to the board to decide what your direction is.
But isn't that the intent of growth management? That it be eventually included into the municipality?
And how that's done is kind of determined on the local basis.
Yes, but I'm trying to get that answer.
Yes.
Is that the intent of growth management? If we were going to follow the intent of growth management, as the law is written today, we would help those individuals become part of the city at some point in time.
Robin?
Is that
Okay.
different?
What is the, I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Gary's question. What is the reason that the staff is suggesting option 2 instead of option 3?
I can answer that. When ready.
Well, you want, is this same topic?
Yeah, I mean, it's all tied together, and my question is just a piggyback to that is, if City of Lacey were sitting here in this room, we're not in the courtroom, so I can ask you to speculate, which is exciting for me. What would be their explanation as to why they proposed what they proposed?
They have lots of.
I can speculate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe is by absorbing the neighborhoods requires for them to provide additional services, and that is an additional cost to the city. And the reverse is to the county. The same arguments to the reverse, meaning creating those islands, then we continue to provide those services to those already established neighborhoods.
So that's what they're thinking, but if they were sitting here, what would they actually say? Because they probably wouldn't say that, right?
They wouldn't say that.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
And
What would they tell us?
Their
Does the
argument, will be the proposed yellow really doesn't have any financial benefit to the city. And my counter argument to that will be no yet, because that is a raw land that will be eventually be developed. So, and you can probably hear both arguments, but I'd like to highlight, answer Robin's questions. And I agree with the principle, the intent of the Growth Management Act, that eventually all that area should be part of the city. And I think option 2 is to reach a compromise with the city. And because we're cognizant also the additional neighborhoods will create additional services for them to provide. But by having a somewhat of a logical midway to create this annexation, that's really the intent of option 2. And that is how staff is coming, and we had a discussion. That's what probably my proposal was, actually, to come with option 2, is just to reach a compromise with the city. So the city doesn't feel that the county is already putting a lot of pressure on the revenues to provide the services with absorbing all the other neighborhoods. So that is the reason as to why option 2.
Yeah, I'll follow up with that in a little bit, but go ahead, Gary.
Well, I want to follow up a little more on that, is that when growth management was put together, the municipalities, were also given taxing authority that the county does not have, but yet, by them bypassing these areas and taking the areas in which, say, revenue is generated, sales tax, for an example, if it was the intent that if growth management wanted us to kind of, oh, okay, you just keep this, that, they'd split the sales tax 50-50, but they don't. They split the when it is in the county, we get that sales tax revenue. If it's in the city gets the sales tax revenue. Everything leading up to this has been, don't have any sales tax revenue in the unincorporated area of the county. And therein lies the problem, that it's a fairness issue to the counties to be able to provide adequate services under the direction of growth management. That was the whole intent of growth management, not to have the municipality circumvent their responsibility, because they're getting the revenue. And we'll never have the revenue to provide adequate services if they keep up this checkerboard annexation.
Go ahead, Ty.
So I agree. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just would point out that based on what staff just presented, I labeled every single area. There's not a commercial area in this. So this, other than the vacant lot, I mean, you had a school.
It's all the
rack.
The Ostrom's farm.
The Ostrom farm.
Mushroom.
The whole mushroom farm, 40 acres.
That is planning to move out of the county anyways.
So that could be a potential
And
development spot, and then there's the spot at the top.
a prime piece of real estate for any commercial development. And also this area that you have
Yeah.
here vacant, also
Yep,
that is
I
part of
got that.
And isn't the area behind the school,
Yeah.
But this is-
it's getting cleared out?
The open alley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is future
Right.
projection. I'm
Right.
just pointing out that currently, this is not a revenue
and-
generating areas at the
Not
current
at this
point.
point, but it goes, I guess, go back to the introduction that I made. The county is not opposed to the annexation. The county is suggesting that perhaps let's be holistic. Going back to the principle that Commissioner Ed was highlighted, that eventually needs to be part of the city. So let's work holistically on this thing as to how a proposed annexation should be. And I believe this is going to be just the first step, because the next big annexation request from the city of Lacey is coming up. And it's coming up, they're going to be proposing annexing all the commercial area in Martin Way. If that is the case, then Tanglewild and Thompson's Place will be the big islands that will never be annexed. So, and this is really, it's not an opposition of the county to prevent any annexations, because we understand the logic and the intent of GMA. But let's be holistic again as to how we should continue on.
So my question was going to go back to, when you asked it, why option 2 rather than the others? So my question is this, and we'll take the name out. Any jurisdiction wants to come in, and in this case it's Lacey. They have option 1 that they would like, and that makes sense to me if I'm with Lacey. It makes sense, that's all we would like. You can have the rest, you can keep it, but we want this piece. Option 2, as it was stated, is a nice compromise. I'm not sure if Lacey will balk at that and say, no, we're not happy with that, let's fight this. Or if we go with option 3, which is beneficial in great part to the county, and then option 2 could be a compromise, why wouldn't we go with option 3 rather than just option 2 if it's going to be challenged anyway?
Because the Boundary Review Board will have to hold a public hearing based on a proposal. So the option that you have is whether the Boundary Review Board will hold a proposal on option number 3 and option number 2, and they will have to make a judgment based on the public testimony they've received, whether that is what they need to do. So the Boundary Review Board cannot get to the point of negotiating.
Right, so they hold a public hearing, they receive information from everybody, and they decide. I still don't see the bad part of that.
Can the county not propose option 3 and the Boundary Review Board pick option 2?
Well, I don't, because it all depends how the public hearing is going to be laid out. The purpose of,
Sure.
because then if it's option 3, what the commission, then that option is going to be sent to the public.
Right.
And it will be, from my perspective, it will be very difficult to Boundary Review Board to say, okay, let's take the Tanglewild East out.
But if the city and the county came in together
So
at the
that's
time
different.
of the public
That-
hearing
yeah,
and
that's
said,
different. That is-
hey,
yeah.
Boundary Review Board, we've got a compromise, would you consider?
And-
I'm just trying to understand what the authority of the Boundary Review Board is.
Yeah, I don't want to jump to the option or to the compromise. I want to work
Yeah,
to
that's
it.
exactly where
I
I'm
want to
coming
work to it,
from.
not just throw our hand in.
The answer is yes. I mean, there's many different paths to the same outcome. We could propose the compromise immediately, or we could start with option 3 and work towards the compromise, but you're correct. The Boundary Review Board could take any path they wanted.
Good.
Okay.
And there may be a 4th option that Lacey comes up with.
Well,
Yeah.
so, sorry, interrupt real quick. Do you want to go? So these are options in general. So we've got all those little neighborhoods broken out. If the purview of the board was to cut up the boundaries in a different way, we're open to that as well. But this was our attempt at the most logical 3 options. There is an infinite number of options in terms of the neighborhoods and the streets and all that kind of stuff.
And in previous annexations, if I may, we have worked with the city of Lacey and through interlocal agreements, memorandum of understandings. So the precedent has been already put in place that we have worked with the city of Lacey in many proposed annexations. The last one was on the Gateway Phase 2 that it was a joint effort between the city and the county in which the developer litigated against both jurisdictions, which has settled that. So there is a precedent that we continue to work with the city as to how will be the right compromise, I believe.
You've said it several times that we are not opposed to annexation, and we are not opposed to annexation, but it has to be logical and equitable. Yeah, Gary?
Is there any process in which we could go to the Growth Management Board as far as it's, I mean, there a lot of things, you know, we get challenged once in a while that we're not doing something according to growth management. Is there the possibility that if this doesn't go one way or the other, and I recognize we are going to try to work with them, but I'm recognizing that the chair has said that let's not give away the farm before we get going here. Is there a way that we can go forward possibly to the Growth Management Board and say, look, this is not working out. The intent of growth management was the infill be within the growth management area. And this is trying to be circumvented now. So that's, I'd like to hear from council possibly if there's something here.
Travis Burns, prosecuting attorney's office. For the record, I was trying to avoid sitting here, but I'll answer the question.
How'd that work for you?
Not too well. I gave it a shot. Yeah, I think ultimately your question is what are the avenues, assuming that we try to settle, which I hear is the preferred option with our neighboring jurisdiction. What if we disagree? Well, ultimately we have to go through the BRB process first. If we find out the BRB does not side with the county, if there's a conflict line, we'll settle, then the action of the BRB is appealable to Superior Court. So the Growth Management Board doesn't have jurisdiction to hear or review any decisions.
Any of this?
No, that would be Superior Court action that we would file.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, this isn't really for you, but it was just chiming into the discussion, the compromise option could be what we proposed to Lacey, and I'm not saying this is what my position, but it's just hearing what the chair said about not wanting to basically negotiate, and the option 2 could be the negotiation, let's settle this so we have agreement. If we don't fail that, then we're going to propose option 3, because otherwise both sides don't know what the boundary review board is going to do. And we could get the worst outcome or a lesser outcome, or we could get a better outcome, and that's Lacey. And just like any litigation, both sides have the incentive to settle for the compromise. So I guess that's a way to do what the chair is trying to do, which is preserve our right to keep our stick, so to speak, if we're not going to be able to get a negotiated settlement. Which I don't know the costs of. I don't know the costs involved to the county in going through a BRB process. Do we save money and time and staffing to come to settlement? Is that a consideration? Josh is saying yes.
Yes.
So there's an incentive for us to try to to reach an agreement before the BRB process. Am I right? Or am I missing something?
No, you're right.
Good point.
I was just going to say that because we would be requesting the boundary review board to add additional area with options 2 or 3, the boundary review board will still have to hold a public hearing, notify the property owner, and render a decision on one of those other 2 options, and of course make findings on the review factors and objectives that they're supposed to make findings on in state law for the annexations. And a lot of it has to do with the logical outer boundary of the annexation, provision of municipal services and such.
So if Lacey proposes this and nobody objects, then boundary review board just adopts. But if we come with a slightly different compromise, then they have to go through this process.
Yes, sir.
That doesn't seem to
Yeah,
make sense.
you're asking all the same questions that I asked as a lawyer. Because we're used to settling and not going to the forum, right?
That's the point.
Unfortunately, the BRB, it's not because there's so much due process related to the citizen notifications. And notice is a big part of this in terms of giving residents.
Right, that makes sense. Yeah.
So because the proposal, is small, and we're looking to basically settle for something in between that, you you have to give those folks an opportunity to be heard. And that's ultimately why we have to pay up for the hearing. I mean, it's unfortunate, but once we get to this position, now we have talked about the future, trying to develop a more succinct way to globally deal with this before they file a notice. And that would, ultimately, once they file their notice to annex, we're stuck in this procedure.
So you could have a gentleman's agreement. Come to us first. Let's see if we can hash it out before we get to the
Before
final.
you all provide the notice to the public.
But that didn't happen here.
That's where the work needs to get done. But there are probably reasons, I can speculate why they did what they did, but there are probably reasons why they didn't do this situation. But here we are, we have to, either way, we have to go to hearing. My advice, we have to invoke jurisdiction.
Yeah, we have to invoke jurisdiction. Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately.
But I'd like to go back to your comment, if I may. If nobody says anything related to the annexation, including the county, after January 14th, it becomes official. So the Boundary Review Board doesn't take an action. It just becomes, becomes annexed.
Because the public presumably had notice.
The Boundary Review Board is the board who weighs in any challenges. So it's the third party who goes through that process.
I got
determine
you.
that, yeah.
And so for point of clarification for this meeting, the direction is from the board. My next step as the director of CPED will be to go to the planning director, Rick Walk, and say, here's the direction that the Board of County Commissioners have provided. And what do you think, essentially? And then he and I will have a conversation about next steps and what that means towards the invocation of jurisdiction. If it's option 2 or 3, we will invoke jurisdiction. And that leads us to that January 14th. And so the board will make a formal action on January 10th at your board meeting to start that process.
January 10th.
Sorry,
8th. January 8th.
Tuesday.
Thanks. Appreciate that. But so to all of the different scenarios and which one we go for and how do we compromise and when does that compromise happen? The first step is getting the direction from this board. The next step is me talking to my counterpart in the city of Lacey.
So the game plan is what you stated, I think, but also Ty brought up was proposed. We're looking at option 2, and if you're not amenable to that, then we're gonna push for 3.
If that's the direction of the board.
I'm good with.
I like that idea.
Sure. That heads more towards a settlement.
It really does. Yeah.
And trying to get back to that
Any
handshake.
thumbs up now?
Well, time's of the essence. So I believe what the board would like to see is reach out to, for Josh to reach out to the city of Lacey and stating that the board is considering invoking jurisdiction. And at this point, the board is considering options 1 and option 3.
2 and 3.
Option
Yeah,
2
2
and
and
option 3. And I believe the judge at that point will ask the city of Lacey, said, what options, what is your reaction to this? Because you need, the board needs to make a formal decision on June 8th in order for us to meet the deadline of June 14th to invoke jurisdiction. And as I hear the conversation, the board is whether it's option 2 and option 3, because option 1 is not an option for the board at this point.
Right.
Right, because it's invoking jurisdictions under option 2 or invoking jurisdictions option number 3. And what are you asking again, Josh, to do is a courtesy call to the city of Lacey and said, this is what the board is considering. The board is going to be making a decision on January 8th. What is your perspective?
So we can respond to their response, but if we don't get a response,
We'll get a response.
you will. Okay.
And I'll be back in touch with you on this. I could do it the morning of January.
Yeah, and
Okay,
January
good.
8th, when you consider taking a decision whether it's option 2 and option 3, then Josh will be in the position to provide some feedback on Lacey interaction.
Go ahead, Ty.
Can I ask one more question? Because you guys probably have seen these go through the Boundary Review Board process. Can you make how likely are they to do something like option 3, for example? Would that be unprecedented to actually take a proposed annexation and fill in that much? You said it was from 200 and whatever acres to 498 acres. Is that kind of expansion by the Boundary Review Board crazy to think would happen, or is that very likely to happen?
I don't know if we want to speculate on their decisions.
Mhm.
They're a neutral body, and so what they can do is analyze the current annexation proposal by the city of Lacey, as well as the request by Thurston County, and look at it against their different objectives or review factors, which do include drawing logical outer boundaries for potential annexation, and do include reviewing the comp plan provisions in countywide planning policies and other growth management and other factors, and then they would make their decision and develop findings of fact to go with that decision.
So there's a lot of factors that play into
Yes.
it. You
Have
can't
you-
just compare apples to oranges.
Have you seen them do that before, though?
I have not seen the Thurston County Boundary Review Board do that. I have heard that the King County Boundary Board has done it, so we will be researching this.
Good.
If we get to that point.
So what do you need, thumbs up now? We already,
No, what I believe is,
we'll just wait to
I'm
hear.
sorry, I do have one other question. Does this, considering that the board needs to make a decision by next Tuesday, and I'm assuming that the City of Lacey staff would need to go back to the city manager or the city council, does that give them time to do that work and get back to you?
I think what we can probably see is the reaction. Because at this point, they really, if the reaction is, okay, let's compromise, then we get an assurance that we need to work on that compromise. It's really just to have their reaction by next Tuesday, because a formal action may not be timely. I'm going to be bringing this item again on Tuesday morning for you to make a formal decision. At that point, we'll hear from Josh as to what the reaction from the City of Lacey has been. As a matter of fact, this morning, Chief Brooks, who has a development in this area, it just happens that we worked out at the same gym. He has talked to the City of Lacey, Scott Spence, as well as the mayor. So the City of Lacey, from his perspective at least, they're already waiting, expecting invoking jurisdiction by the county. But I don't think they have seen the details of the invoking jurisdiction. So it's not going to become a surprise. I think it's going to come as what the invoking jurisdiction means in terms of option 2 and option 3.
All right. Anything else, Gary, Ty?
No, I guess Josh will be talking to him this afternoon, maybe.
I can maybe do it this morning.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you have what you need.
Yep.
Travis, Josh, Jeremy, Tony, Linda, Cindy, thank you all very much. We're done with this topic then.
Thank you.
Next then, it's 11:40 almost, so let's move on to emergency management course.
Yeah, the other
Pretty
two
easy.
items should be fairly quick. And just a brief background, and you have some documentation right here. In the past, we have applied for grants to have a very comprehensive emergency training. And in the past, when we received those grants, all the jurisdictions in the county sent representative, and the training used to occur in Virginia. So it was a lot of traveling going to Virginia, and I think, I don't know, Commissioner Edwards perhaps participating on
I have
the
been
training.
to the training in Virginia.
So we applied for the same grant. However, this is a little bit different, which is more beneficial. The trainers are going to come to Washington State, and right now we have the training is scheduled for February 25th through the 28th, and it is going to be located at the Shiloh Inn Suites in Ocean Shores. As we go through and determine who will be part of that, is close to 65 attendees, and there's a number of slots that we have for the county. And within the whole slots, we have directors are going to be attending. And the reason that I bring to your attention is we only have 2 slots for 2 commissioners to attend this training. So I'd like to have a direction from the board as to who 2 commissioners will be attending this training.
It's beautiful. I think you guys would enjoy it this time of year.
Have you been there?
No. I've been to Ocean Shores, yeah.
But no,
Well,
have you
no,
taken-
but
have you
have you
taken-
been through the
have you
training?
Have you taken this training?
I believe it has. The IEMC, yeah, I did that years ago with Olympia, through the fire department.
You ended up traveling to Virginia?
No.
So you haven't taken this training.
Okay, then. That's right.
So you get a couple days.
Looks like I'm going no matter what. These guys are,
You're going.
these guys are fighting over it.
So you're going. That's what I was saying. You're going.
Yeah,
And I think Commissioner Hutchins is going because
Does
I
it
know
need to
that
be a commissioner?
it's 2 slots for 2 commissioners. And
That's what I'm saying. It has to be a commissioner?
it is very important and essential for the commissioners to
been?
participate. No, that's what I'm going.
Oh, you are going?
Yeah, I am going.
Oh.
Robin is going, and some directors are going as well.
So it's like an all skate except for us. All right.
So I know the Commissioner Edwards has attended this training.
Yep.
So
How do you know that? Just because he said?
no, because
I might have told him I saw this coming, and I told him 6 months ago during the planning.
in his previous life, he had that
I
training.
probably have a certificate I could dig out.
So I will arrange with Commissioner Hutchins and Commissioner Mason to attend this training.
Tag nabbit.
Okay.
I can't invoke my own personal
You
jurisdiction.
own jurisdiction.
All right. Now, commissioner items. We've got a few minutes left.
No, the last item, number 5, is a
Oh, I'm
regional
sorry. Yeah, I
commission.
just scratched that.
This
Sounds
just to
right.
give you a heads up that I have been having conversations with the executive office from Pierce County, and they, as a result of the derailment that happened in December 2017, there was a lot of gaps as to how the 2 jurisdictions could work together. So we are planning to have a tabletop exercise with. We need to find a topic. There will be a joint exercise with the council from Pierce County and the commissioners from Thurston County. But leading to that, we're going to have a meet and greet, either as luncheon or some sort of gathering between the county council from Pierce County and the commissioner. So just to give a heads up that you will see in your calendars coming up, and that's the intent, is to start looking at regionally, because there is a lot of nexus with Pierce County, and the big nexus, again, is the JBLM and the issues associated with that.
What, is Pierce then hosting this?
We haven't got to the detail yet as to who's going to host.
Okay.
Perhaps we're going to host, and maybe we'll have it at, somewhere in DuPont. That is the midpoint.
Okay. Questions about that? Comments? Nope? Okay. Commissioner items. Gary, got any items you want to bring up? But leave room for Ty?
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything. So.
Okay.
Where are we at? Have we heard anything back from the state on our letter to have them study the total program in the Deschutes River? Have you heard anything back from them?
No.
I have been attempting to get an example. I know DNR has maps, because I got a map about 1.5 years ago about this fertilizer application in the forest land. They've not been very responsive. Vicky's been calling them, so I don't know if it's an intentional thing up at DNR. They just don't want to get back to us. But I would like to see at some point we write a letter to DNR so we've got it in writing, or maybe you can do it. I'm not saying whom, but or I guess I could do it. I think it just carries more weight if the board says, could you show us the application of commercial fertilizer in the Deschutes watershed, because we are working on doing cleanup, and it's all part of the program. I just don't trust what services, which group did we send that letter to for asking them to review?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's two different things.
Enterprise
if I may.
Services?
So we sent to Enterprise Services, that's the department.
And we haven't heard anything back.
And we will start hearing something, because what we provided comments is on the scope of work. They're in process of defining the scope of work. So They have received many comments, not just from Thurston County. I believe the City of Olympia has also submitted some comments to how the scope of work should be defined. And in fact, on January 14th, Commissioner Hutchins will be attending a meeting where that is going to be the centerpiece of the conversation, how the scope of work is going to be defined. Keep in mind what I mentioned to you yesterday. The draft proposed budget from the governor's office did not include the additional $900,000 the enterprise services requested in order to meet 100% of the draft scope of work. So chances are they may not be expanding the scope of work. Chances are they will be reducing the scope of work to meet the gap of the $900,000. So I don't want to conclude as to how they're going to be responding to the county's letter, but I don't expect to have a response just to the county because they have received many, many comments on the public hearing related. On the public outreach related to the scope of work. So I just received a letter, an email yesterday, and Kelly has already put in your schedule on January 16th. Commissioner Hutchins will be attending a meeting which is part of the executive group of this project. Not related to DNR and your suggestion of a letter, what I'm hearing is that perhaps you would like to file a public records request for DNR to provide information?
Well, possibly. I mean, I'm recognizing that the governor's budget did not have this money. So I agree with you. I think the scope of the study could be less even than what it is originally intended. So bearing that in mind, I think it behooves us to start taking some steps to move forward that we are interested in that upper watershed. And they can give you maps. DNR has these maps. They do all the regulation. It just doesn't seem like they're being very responsive. Now, maybe they're just busier than the dickens. I don't know. But something is going on, and nobody at the state wants to talk about commercial application of fertilizer in the forest. So I think it's detrimental to our environment and to clean water. I don't see how it's not detrimental to clean water. I mean, we're telling homeowners don't use lawn fertilizer. This is 10 times more potent than the lawn fertilizer, and it goes right in the water.
Or show us it isn't.
Pardon, what?
Or, yeah, I agree with your premise. I'm saying, or show us, DNR, that it isn't harmful.
Yeah, oh, yeah, right. I mean, if they can show that it's not, again, when Weyerhaeuser came down and gave us a presentation, you know, very much like Congress got it from the tobacco industry. You'd go out of there asking for a smoke. You know, when it all said and done, they will try to justify their corporate position. But I'm talking to scientists that are doing cleanup in Puget Sound, and they're saying it would be very detrimental, that quantity of excessive nutrient, nitrogen, phosphorus, whatever is in their products. So that's why I want to start pushing on this water quality issue. It's going to come up, and I don't want to wait until we're at a meeting and then say, well, we asked 6 months ago, we didn't hear anything, 3 months ago, we didn't hear anything.
I've been a commissioner for 2 days now, so maybe I'm naive, but it seems like I feel like if I made that phone call and I should get a response, and if I don't get a response, I should get you know, how long is it going to take?
Right.
And if they don't want to be respectful to another government official, then they can deal with a public records request. I agree. We should make it. If it's information that we should be entitled to have.
Yeah, and that's what not necessarily arguing your position. I think you have been very consistent and clear on your position. Is the mechanism as to how we can get that information was asking clarifying. I like your approach, Commissioner Menser. Give it another shot in a way. If they continue to be non-responsive, they will need to convene, and from the board's perspective, what is it they would like them to release? And they have the obligation to release any documentation as part of public records.
I guess, but
now I'm hearing, though, a letter with 3 signatures, perhaps.
Asking for it.
Right, but what I'm hearing is that perhaps Commissioner Menser would like to attempt
you
another.
You want to call them first? Sure.
No, well, not necessarily. I will if you want. I was just saying that one theme you're going to hear from me over and over is I cannot stand when layers of government create inefficiency for our citizens because they won't cooperate, communicate. You know, to me, if another governmental official called my office, that'd be a top priority to make sure that I responded to what they need. If it's just information sitting in my files.
Right.
So if they're not going to show, if some agency anywhere is not going to show respect to us, then they can deal with public records requests, which isn't the most efficient or happy way to deal with these types of requests. But if that's what is necessary, that's what we'll do.
It is an instrument, absolutely.
So you've been talking with them for years, a couple of years.
Off and on, yeah.
And I brought that one guy in to do a
Yes, you
briefing
did.
for us.
Yeah.
And you've been requesting maps.
Yeah,
And we're still
but I've
getting-
only been I had requested maps initially when we first got going, just to see what had taken place right here locally in Thurston County.
And did they?
And they did.
They did, okay.
But that was when I first started asking questions. Now I'm kind of running into a brick wall. That's the way I feel. That they would just as soon not release this information. And I don't know why. I can only speculate. But this is an issue that I've talked to prior. I talked to Senator Karen Frazier about it. She oversaw this whole DNR process. She said she knew nothing about this. And I know it's been going on for 50 years. And I talked with Karen and Jennifer Belcher. Jennifer used to be the DNR, she was lands commissioner, and she didn't know anything about it. It almost like, well, we'd just soon not talk about this.
So I'm not interested in any other phone calls. I mean, you can call anybody you want, but it's not a formal record, but a letter.
I don't know.
Letter's a formal
I believe
record.
Vicky's got several phone calls plus maybe some emails. I don't know. I didn't ask exactly, but.
Well, that's what I'm leaning toward, but what's the pleasure of my seatmates? I'd like to see a formal letter requesting this with all three of us signing it.
It sure puts them on notice that.
But it doesn't go to the local guy. It goes to the top man or woman.
Yeah, send it to the Commissioner of Lands.
We have a lot of water quality issues to deal with, and if this is a piece, even if this is just something you need to know, Frank, then we have to have all the information we need so that we can all reach consensus on strategy. So I want that information.
I mean, I kind of want to make it polite. I don't want to throw rocks, but I want to.
So that's what I believe the approach, the polite approach was a two-step process. To have Commissioner Messner give a phone call, given the opportunity to provide that information. If that doesn't happen, then we follow up with the letter.
Or let Vicky complete her outreach efforts.
So, and I think that's probably what.
I don't care what we do. I just want to do something.
Right.
So, and the reason I'm asking for it in writing is because then we got a record.
That's what I said.
How long ago did Vicky start making these calls?
Oh, I suppose 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we've had the holidays. Sure, I mean, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not getting off first base with this.
I don't. And I think we're being too polite. We're being too slow and too polite and acquiescing and compromising or accepting the compromise of no action or inaction.
I think it could even help Enterprise Services make a decision if they're willing to make this, expand the study. I don't know. It's a strategy. All I'm trying to do is
I doubt, to be honest with you. I cannot, if Commissioner Hutchins will see how the scope of work is going to come to be, but it is doubtful, at least from my perspective, that will expand the scope of work since they don't have all the revenues.
I'm just kind of going back to Jennifer Belcher and Karen Frazier saying they didn't
So
know anything
what I'm
about it.
hearing
want to send a letter
is,
or not?
so I'm hearing two different things from the board. Go ahead with the letter, or let's just give
I'm with Hutch. I'm satisfied. I've already made the request and haven't heard anything, and I'd just soon sign a letter.
But I'm hearing is Vicky has started the request 3 weeks ago, and the holidays,
maybe even more.
The holidays and everything else. The question that I have is, do you like to have the two-step approach, or just like to go directly to the letter? That's the question that I have for the board.
I would sign a letter right now, send it up to the DNR.
We're beyond a two-step process. We've been doing this two-step dance for quite some time. But a
The
letter,
two of you.
a letter still goes on file, and if they acquiesce or if they complete the request or honor the request from Vicky, okay, fine, doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
But it's a done deal. But I'm in favor of the letter. But
I'm good with the letter.
It's fine.
Okay, the letter should be, so I'll drop some for you.
Four minutes. Any other commissioner items?
Not for me.
Well, I can keep going. I mean,
I
if you
know. I
want.
have a 12:30 thing out of PHR.
Yeah, I was going to go to that too.
Yeah.
Yes, one other thing though, is it tomorrow or is it next week that state of the county and such is taking place?
That's
Ninth,
that's next Wednesday.
And are we
it-
scheduled to attend?
Yes, all of you should be in the master calendar.
Okay.
And
We're
Commissioner
all on
Hatch,
top of that, we got everything,
Yeah.
okay?
I just saw it on Facebook last night, and then I went on my calendar to put it on there, and it was already on
It's
there.
already there.
I mean, is one of us addressing the group?
The
okay,
chair.
perfect. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure.
and
I don't like to get caught
I-
flat-footed.
and I already have the script ready.
Me?
Okay.
Me?
The chair.
Yeah. Okay. So
And
we're
also,
done?
and also on Monday evening is a dinner with the local legislators. That's related to the shared legislative agenda. And the chair will attend that, and I will have a script ready for you tomorrow.
Where is
Oh,
this
okay.
now again?
That's the
That's
shared
PSCC.
legislative agenda.
And where's it gonna be at?
That is going to be on the South Puget Sound Community College Lacey campus.
Do we all attend,
Yeah,
or
do
just?
we-
No, just the chair.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm seeing my.
In prior years, the chair and the county manager attended, but through the conversation among the staff of the shared legislative agenda, it appears to be the county representative, cities and county, was overwhelming the representation of the legislators. So since there is a very informal dinner,
Informal?
very informal, so it will be an opportunity for the chair to highlight our main topic within the shared legislative agenda, which is the reestablishment of the court impact fees. So I will give you a script, and they will give you the time as to when you can, present that to the
Okay.
legislators.
Thank you. And we're back here at 1 p.m.
There is nothing scheduled to that. We'll cancel that.
There's no Superior Court update?
Oh, the Superior Court, yes. After the fact is the board briefings. We don't have anything.
Board
on the
work
agenda.
sessions, that's canceled?
That is canceled.
Beautiful. But we're back here at 1 o'clock for the Superior Court?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe I can-
Beautiful.